Russian forces have been striking enemy facilities in Ukraine throughout the past week. In Poltava, a communications training center was hit, resulting in the elimination of over 50 AFU members. Lviv also came under fire. The strikes were reported in the area of the railway station used by the AFU for supplies. Another strike was launched on the territory of the local airport, which is a base point for Ukrainian aviation. In 𝐔𝐤𝐫𝐚𝐬𝐬, the enemy's temporary deployment point in the building of the Arena Hotel was hit. The facility was actively used by Ukrainian units to house personnel. In Odessa region, Russian troops launched strikes on the enemy's facilities on Snake Island. Ukrainian units have long used it as a staging point for subsequent attacks in the Black Sea. In turn, the AFU launched several attacks near the Crimean Peninsula. Over 10 uncrewed boats and several other drones were destroyed in the Black Sea. At the same time, Ukrainian UAVs again attempted to attack Russian rear facilities by flying over the territory of the Republic of Belarus. In the 𝐔𝐤𝐫𝐚 region, air defense assets intercepted one of the drones, which crashed into a warehouse. Meanwhile, in Kursk region, Ukrainian units continued to launch attacks. In the Koronevsky district, Russian troops repelled a series of AFU attacks in the direction of Snagost and Koronevo. In Sudzhansky district, enemy units were able to slightly expand their zone of control in the Kamyshovka area. Russian aviation and artillery regularly launched strikes on AFU positions, destroying manpower and armored vehicles. At the same time, firing on identified targets in the border area of Sumy region continued. One of the strikes was launched on AFU M270MLRS launcher near Mauritius. On the Slobozhanska direction, the enemy made several attacks towards 𝐒𝐤𝐫𝐚𝐢𝐴, and on the line of Zeleny, Mali, Prokody. The plans of the AFU were promptly uncovered, and the attacks of the Ukrainian units were successfully repulsed. On the Kupiansk-Svatove direction, Russian forces expanded their zone of control in the vicinity of Sinkivka. Almost the entire village and part of the forest area to the northwest came under the control of the Russian armed forces. The configuration of the front on the Lyman direction has not changed significantly over the past week. Russian troops are trying to expand the zone of control around Makiivka, while the AFU is responding with counterattacks. The Siversk direction saw localized fighting near Bilohorivka, Verkhnyokamyanske, and Ivano-Darivka. Russian troops launched targeted strikes on AFU positions, hitting both personnel and armored vehicles. On the Artemivsk direction, members of the Russian assault units from Klishchiivka advanced to the channel of the Seversky Donets-Donbass Canal. This was made possible by establishing control over an AFU stronghold northwest of the village. On the Oleksandrivske-Kalinov direction, Russian forces continued their assault on the Toretsk agglomeration. Russian armed forces units established control over at least half of Nelipivka and almost all of Druzhba. The situation was dynamically developing on the Pokrovsk direction, where Russian units continued to advance successfully. Members of assault units completely liberated Lysivka and also began fighting in the borders of Ukrainsk and in the Hernik area. In turn, Ukrainian units conducted several counterattacks towards Halitsinivka. The enemy made a landing on the outskirts of the locality, but the AFU group was promptly covered by artillery fire. On the Donetsk direction, Russian forces have significantly expanded their zone of control in the private sector northwest of Krasnohorivka. The presence of Ukrainian forces remains in the farm complex west of the private sector. On the South Donetsk direction, the Russian armed forces liberated Prechistivka. On its outskirts, they managed to gain a foothold at the beginning of the month. The enemy command withdrew most of its forces to Zolota, preparing new defensive lines there. On the Vremivka direction, position battles continue on the border of Staromayorske, Urozhain, and north of Pryotne. The sides exchange strikes and rotate in preparation for the resumption of the offensive. The Zaporizhzhia direction saw position battles without significant attempts to advance. At the same time, Russian UAV operators were active, hitting AFU armored vehicles in several settlements. On the Kherson direction, the main clashes are still unfolding in the island zone. At the same time, Ukrainian units are preparing for another attempt to land on the Kinburn Spit.